All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this weekly forecast for the upcoming week. That means starting tomorrow on the 17th all the way to Friday, the 21st. Let's start by looking at the economic calendar for the upcoming week right here. So tomorrow we have Canadian dollar CPI, which is pretty interesting. Well, should be pretty interesting. We'll see. And on Tuesday, we have some GBP news. Wednesday, we have meeting minutes, FOMC, that's not very interesting. We have the Australian dollar interest rate decision. Then on Thursday, we have two US dollar orange folder news, so that's not the best. And then on Friday, we have a bunch of orange folder news for Euro GBP. Um, Well, my key takeaway from this economic calendar is that we just don't have any USD news coming up this week. Meeting minutes is meaningless, so that's not really important. And then we only have these two on Thursday, but they're only orange folders. So honestly, might be a very slow week. I'm sad to say that, but it could be a very slow week. But keep in mind, we're still in August. It's one of the slowest month of the year. Everything should pick back up should pick some pace in September. All right, well, that's it. That's what we have for now on the economic calendar. So let's take a look at the charts now. If we start by the dollar here, you remember last week we had this weekly bearish fair value gap. We had it the tiniest thing into it, and then we started going lower. Um, so again, this is not what we were expecting in a certain way. We we do still want to see the dollar reach this high first. Once we reach that high, then I wouldn't mind seeing lower prices. But for now, that's not really what we want to see. But again, it does make sense, right? We had a weekly fair value gap that looked perfect, in my opinion. And so I'm not very surprised that we actually started moving lower. Now, also keep in mind that we have this. Whoa, what is happening? Okay, we have this monthly fair value gap right there. Right now, we could say that it has failed. Well, not really, because we have to look at it from the monthly perspective, and it's not over yet. And the two candle rejection can still happen. It's just that from the weekly time frame perspective, it does look like this monthly fair value gap is failing. But right now, I want to take your attention to the Fibonacci on the dollar right here, because that's interesting. If you draw the Fibonacci on the latest range right here, you can see that right now we are not respecting the zero point 0.5 level, but there is still the golden level. And so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see something that looks a little bit like this. We sweep the golden level, and then from there we respect the monthly fair value gap, and we just start climbing higher and higher. That's what I'm seeing happen. So for the upcoming week, I'm gonna say well, lower prices until we reach the golden level here. Okay. Now on the daily time frame, not too clear, I have to admit. We've been stuck in a consolidation for a long time. Let's see if on Monday we can create a daily fair value gap right here. That's what I would be waiting for. Other than that, I'm not touching the dollar for tomorrow. Yeah, let's just wait because it's been really ranging right here. You can see it on the 4 hour very clearly, just ranging inside this box without really getting out of it. So we need a breakout somewhere. That should happen to the downside, but we have to wait for that. And so Monday, I think Monday can consolidate, create that daily fair value gap right here, and then we can continue lower on Tuesday. So yeah, that's it for the dollar. Could be interesting overall this week, but for now, take a step back and wait for daily fair value. Now, if we look at AU, for example, we have this monthly fair value gap that we can still reject from. I know it doesn't look like it right now, but we can still reject from it. Um, yeah, it's just not too clear. I don't like AU to be honest. Don't like it. Okay, GU. Wait, what do we want to see again this week? We want to see lower prices until we reach golden level. Okay, so we want to see higher prices on these pairs this week. So AU doesn't really seem like we're going to see higher prices. Well, yes, it does, but until when, you know? That's more of the question. What can we reach? We can maybe look at the Fibonacci. Yeah, that kind of agrees. If you look at the fib on this, we could see some higher prices until we reach that Fibonacci. But again, I wouldn't take a trade just based off of that, okay? GU ranging has been raging for many weeks. Don't like it. EU, same thing, a little bit better though. Um, what can we aim for on EU? Let's look at the range. Yeah, I mean, EU could also reach that golden level and has more room to run, so I do like this. Put it on the interest list. We'll keep an eye on it. We just didn't get the sting inside that weekly fair value gap like we did on the dollar, but we came really close. And then the daily does look a lot like the dollar inversed. Okay, so basically what I would wait for here on EU, same thing as the dollar. Monday could consolidate, create a daily fair value gap. Then on Tuesday we can trade back into it to target. Well, first would be this swing high. Then after that we have that golden level up there. I think we can reach that. I do like EU. We'll keep an eye on it. NU, this one I don't like it. It hasn't been good in a few weeks, so no. USD Canadian. So this one is also inside a monthly fair value gap, which it does seem like it's failing right now, but we can't say that confidently right now because there's the two candle rejection on the monthly. But then if we look at the range again on this chart, yeah, we could see some lower prices until we reach the golden level. So that could be interesting. And again, same scenario, potentially creating a daily fair value gap here, overlapping with that zero point 0.5 level. That would be beautiful. So that on Tuesday, we can just sting back into the fair value gap and we catch this move right here, this move from the zero point 0.5 to the golden level. Boom. And then from this golden level, I think that's where we're going to start seeing higher prices. But again, don't base yourself only on this chart, USD Canadian. The dollar needs to be ready to move as well. So the dollar needs to reach its golden level first and show some evidence that it wants to change direction, and then we can look at all these majors. But USD Canadian is interesting. USD CHF, um, this one not too clear. It's been consolidating a lot. We have a monthly fair value gap right there, but it doesn't seem like we're going to retrace back into it. Yeah, I don't like it, to be honest. No, don't like this. And then USD JPY, this one hasn't been interesting for a while. And I don't think it will be interesting this week as well. This whole move is just so random. I don't get it, but yeah, no, let's not waste brain points on this. We already have EU and USD Canadian. I think they both look pretty good. They do agree with the dollar in a certain way. So again, it's about waiting for the dollar to be ready, and then once the dollar is ready, we can look at these two majors. Moving on to the metals, gold. So on gold, um, keep in mind that when the month of July ended, I made a forecast and I said we have this monthly fair value gap right there, which we could start going lower from. but I said it is not likely that we will just have the tiniest thing possible into it to then continue lower. I did mention that because, and why did I say that? It's because that fair value gap, that monthly fair value gap, was quite low in the range, in that leg going lower. So I said it's more likely that we're gonna start going lower from the zero point 0.5 or even the golden level, but not the fair value gap. So now the fair value gap obviously hasn't officially failed, again because of the two candle rejection on the monthly. But from the weekly perspective, yeah, it kind of has failed already. So I'm gonna remove it, but just keep in mind that there's a monthly fair value gap down here. Okay? But right now, it's not what's important. I think that what's important is this zero point 0.5 level and this golden level. This area right here. This is what we can expect price to push price in the opposite direction. So on the weekly, we created this pretty nice looking bullish fair value gap. Like this is like a perfect, perfect fair value gap. Um, so we have to be aware of this fair value gap because it's there. Even though it goes against our bias, I think the most likely thing that price could do right now is, well, start going lower at the beginning of the week to get the sting back inside the weekly fair value gap. From the weekly fair value gap, we can start going higher, potentially reach, well, sweep this high right there, or even just reach the golden level, and from there we can get the real move going lower. Obviously, that everything I just showed you here, this whole path that I made, uh, should take a few weeks, but I think overall that's what should happen. So for now, on gold, I think to begin the week, we should see some lower prices to trade back inside this weekly fair value gap. So lower prices for the beginning of the week until we reach that weekly fair value gap. Once we reach it, then we should see higher prices. And the target to me would be the golden level, or you could say this swing high right here. Okay. Um, then on the daily perspective, don't have anything relevant. I yeah, there's nothing relevant here. It's only on the weekly time frame with this weekly fair value gap. Wait for retracement back into it, or if you can, which could be a little bit hard, but if you can, trade the retracement, so a short going into that fair value gap could be interesting. But again, we don't have any context right now that's showing us that price wants to go to that weekly fair value gap. So it might be a little bit hard to trade the retracement, but once we reach inside that weekly fair value gap, we should have a pretty clean opportunity to take a long. So overall, I'm gonna say for the week ahead, I think we should see some higher prices on gold. We should have a bullish week on gold, so a bullish candle at the end of this week. We'll see what happens. So that's it. Now moving on to silver. Um, Silver is actually much weaker, much, much, much weaker. We have this, just like on gold, we have this monthly bearish fair value gap. We got this thing into it, and right now it does seem like we're respecting it in some way. Um, well, one thing we didn't get for sure is the retracement back to the zero point 0.5 or the golden level, like on gold. Gold has been much stronger than silver. Um, So maybe silver can just reject from that monthly fair value gap. It's possible without going back to the zero point 0.5 or golden level. It is a possibility. But right now, again, just like on gold, we have to keep in mind that there is a beautiful weekly fair value gap that just got created there. And that can definitely push price higher. So be aware of that. But the plan is exactly the same here. I think we're just going to see some lower prices to start the week. And once we reach back inside that weekly fair value gap, I think we are going to see some higher prices here on silver as well. But if I was going to trade a metal this week, It would be gold. Gold is clearer. I just like it better. It just makes more sense. But silver, it's just like, are we gonna reach that zero point 0.5 level or not? You know, are we gonna reject only from this monthly fair value gap? It's really hard to tell, but gold, it's not hard to tell. The monthly fair value gap has technically failed, and we know the rejection is going to come either from that zero point 0.5 level or that golden level. So this is a little bit easier for me to analyze and to forecast. So I would focus on gold this week. Moving on to crude oil. So really happy about crude oil, to be honest. Let me just remove some stuff here because it's getting messy. Um, yeah, really happy overall about crude oil. That's what we expected. I said last week in the forecast that we were somewhat respecting that golden level here on this range, and look at that. We got this beautiful bullish candle last week, which I think we should be continuing higher right now because we closed above the zero point 0.5 level. We should see some higher prices at least until we reach this high and potentially the 0.25 level. If you look from the daily time frame perspective, there is more evidence on the daily time frame that we actually want to continue higher because we had this fair value gap right here, this bullish fair value gap. First candle, not a rejection. Second candle rejects beautifully. And now, well, it's very simple. The next target is all the way up here. And then we have this one, and then eventually this one. But for the week, I think these two targets are more reasonable and potentially the 0.25. So honestly, the crude oil, I don't really day trade crude oil, but I like the context that we have. Like if we get a 4 hour fair value gap here, wouldn't mind taking a long towards this high or this high. But again, trading crude oil right now with everything that's going on with Trump and all the market manipulations and everything could be very risky. I'm definitely not going to do it. But if you want to go ahead, just simply wait for 4 hour for value gap because we kind of have context within context within context, and we're just missing that 4 hour context. And from there, we could take a trade. Technically, it would be valid. So keep an eye on that. But overall, higher prices this week on crude oil. Bitcoin, what happened on Bitcoin? Still consolidation. Massive consolidation, actually. It has been in that 62 to 64,000 range in the past, like, what, 5 weeks? Well, the entire summer, basically. Um, so it hasn't moved anywhere. I don't really have anything to say here on Bitcoin except that we're still waiting for a retracement back inside this monthly fair value gap. This is a monthly fair value gap right here. That's what we're waiting for. That hasn't changed. We still want to see a retracement back in there. So until we get that, Bitcoin, not interesting. Moving on to the indices, we have the S&P here. What happened? Okay, so the S&P, that's it. Wow, that's beautiful. Last week's forecast, you can go check it out if you don't believe me. In last week's weekly forecast, I said that the week that just passed was gonna consolidate to create a weekly fair value gap. I said it, I called it, and look at what happened. The definition of a consolidation throughout the entire week. So I was right about that. Now, we did create a beautiful weekly fair value gap, um, overlapping as also with this fair value area. That fair value gap does look really strong to push price higher. I'm going to be honest here. So overall, what we want to see to start the week is some lower prices, okay? So lower prices to start the week until we reach that fair value area. Once we have reached that fair value area, then we should start seeing higher prices and potentially a new all-time high throughout the week. We'll see what happens, but the S&P does look very bullish right now. Then moving on to Nasdaq, again, last week in the weekly forecast, I said the indices were going to consolidate throughout the entire week. That's exactly what it did, and we created that weekly fair value gap that we were expecting. So right now we can only continue higher from it. I don't think there's anything else that could really happen. Um, but yeah, right now I think Nasdaq is the same as the S&P. Even though it looks a little bit more bullish, I still think that overall we need to grab that fair value. So we need to get some lower prices for a while, at least for the beginning of the week, until we sting inside that fair value gap. We grab the fair value, and from there we can start moving higher. Overall, we should again see some higher prices, objectively speaking, even though that's not what I think will happen on the medium to long term. That's not what I think will happen. But right now, being objective, we should see higher prices throughout the week. All right, now the crosses, I'm gonna try to go fast because these are usually very boring to analyze. So the JPY pairs, okay, yeah, that's not too bad actually. Okay, so this fair value gap is a quarterly fair value gap, and look how we're respecting it right now. This is beautiful. On the monthly as well. That is beautiful. This weekly bearish fair value gap that we had last week is not holding at all. And then on the daily, yeah, that could be interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I just love this rejection that we got from the quarterly fair value gap. Okay, so what I would want to wait for here is I would want to wait a whole week. Okay, so this week we want to keep keep an eye on it. So I'll put it on the interest list. But I want to see consolidation this week to create a weekly fair value gap. If that happens, that's a sharp turn. We have fair value gap coming in, fair value gap coming out on the weekly. That's the confirmation from a quarterly fair value gap. That's a beautiful delirium setup right there. That's a textbook delirium setup. So if we can get a fair value gap, a weekly bullish fair value gap created somewhere like this next week, then we go on lower time frames and we trade from it to target this high. This is beautiful. I do like Canadian dollar JPY. Okay, let's move on. CHF JPY. Yeah, this one similar. It is, yeah, it is similar. Um Only problem here is that we do have some lower fair value gaps that I think technically we should retrace back into. Well, I mean, that would make more sense to me. So, no, I don't like CHF JPY as much as I like Canadian dollars JPY. GBP JPY never got the retracement, so no. Euro JPY, probably not. Well, actually, I don't know. It's a little bit hard because we are respecting the quarterly fair value gap. Yeah, actually, that could work. That could work. So the idea is that we are respecting this, this quarterly fair value gap, even though we didn't reach the fair value areas down here. I don't think we needed to get those fair value areas. Just the fair value gap was enough. Um, then here we failed to create a bearish monthly fair value gap, so that's good. Then the weekly is, well, bearish weekly fair value gap has failed. Now, again, same scenario, then Canadian dollar JPY. Let's keep an eye on it. I just want to see a weekly fair value gap get created here. If we do get that, then it could be interesting to target this high up here. All right, so we'll keep an eye on this one. Now moving on to Australian dollar JPY. Well, this one also got a sting, tiniest thing possible right here. So the tiniest thing possible inside this quarterly fair value gap, which also happens to be, well, to have a fair value area. Let me just show it to you right here. And right now it's pushing higher. So what's the next target? It's all the way up here. So that's pretty far. Let's see if we have a closer target. We actually don't. Well, yeah. Technically, this is a monthly fair value gap. But let's drag it all the way to the right. Oh, well, you see that this one has been reached. Okay, so this target has been reached, so that's why we're seeing a rejection right now. Um, yeah, I just don't have a clear target to give you guys. Okay, well, that's okay. We can just use this swing high right here. This is already a good target. We're on the monthly time frame, so we still have some room to move here. Um, so same scenario as the two other Canadian and Euro. We just want to wait for a weekly bullish fair value gap. Once we get it, we can continue higher. This is interesting. And finally, New Zealand dollar, JPY. This one definitely, no, no, this one is not interesting. Okay, well, as simple as that, JPY pairs, well, a few of them are interesting. I'll keep an eye on them. Australian dollar, CHF. Um, nothing, there's nothing here. Nope, there's nothing here. Canadian dollar, CHF was on the interest list last week. What was the reason again? Oh yeah, it was, oh, well, it delivered. That's beautiful. That's what I said in last week's forecast. I said if we use the replay tool weekly, last week that's what we were seeing. I said this week we can extend higher, reach this high, and then even, oops, this high, and then even potentially this one, which we did. It delivered beautifully. Boom. You can see that it just went higher, reached the target. This is exactly what we wanted to see here. So right now, I think price has moved too much, so it needs to take a break, potentially consolidate, create a weekly fair value gap. You know the whole story. So right now, this is not interesting anymore. But if you did catch a trade on this last week, good job. I didn't. You know I'm not home. You know I'm on vacation, so I don't trade right now. I only look at the markets, see what they're doing, but I don't actively trade. Um, but I did flag this pair last week. I did say that it would be interesting. So if you managed to catch along on this last week, congratulations. It was a beautiful set. Good job. I actually regret not trading this move right here. All right, so let's move on to Euro CHF. This one not interesting. There's price has just been going higher without stopping, so no. GBP CHF has also reached a major target, just like Canadian dollar CHF. So right now it's taking a step back because we might consolidate. And then New Zealand dollar CHF. Okay, so it's heading for this quarterly fair value gap, which could be interesting once we reach inside of it though. Okay, so higher prices for now, but once we reach inside this quarterly fair value gap, I don't think this is going to happen next week. Um, it could be interesting. So honestly, I'm not going to put this on the interest list because I think it's going to take more than a week until this becomes interesting. It's probably going to take 2, 3 weeks. So we'll look at it at a later week. All right, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. What is that doing? It's been consolidating massively here. I don't think we're going to be trading that this week. Nope. Very ugly price action. No, this is not interesting. Euro Canadian also not really going anywhere in a meaningful way. So no, this is not interesting. GBP Canadian, we were expecting higher prices a few weeks back from this weekly fair value gap. Never happened. But now, yeah, right now we are retracing back towards this monthly fair value gap. Once that happens, then maybe we could get a move. But again, it's just like New Zealand dollar CHF. It's it's not gonna happen next week. I think it's gonna happen in 2, 3 weeks. Okay. But once we get a retracement back inside this monthly fair value gap, which by the way is overlapping with the fair value area right here, um, could be interesting. Once it retraces back inside the monthly fair value gap. So right now it's waiting. I'm not going to put it on the interest list this week because as I said, it's probably not going to happen this week. New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. No, this is not interesting. Okay. Uh, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. We want to see a retracement back inside this monthly fair value gap. Actually, hmm. I didn't see that last week, but we actually have a quarterly fair value gap here. Maybe even a, no, okay, quarterly fair value gap. It doesn't seem like we are respecting it for now. But we do have this monthly fair value gap that's lower inside of the quarterly fair value gap. So I think this zone is more likely to push price higher. So right now we should be seeing some lower prices. Mhm. Yeah, no, that's not too clear, honestly. Because last week it was on the interest list for lower prices, I believe, but we got the complete opposite. So yeah, that no, that doesn't deserve to be on the interest list for this week because it's not clear. It's consolidating. I don't like it. But on the other hand, Euro New Zealand dollar, that's a different story though. We have this quarterly fair value gap that we are definitely heading for. With that this quarterly fair value gap also happens to be exactly the same as a monthly fair value gap, so that's even better. And right now we are respecting this weekly bearish fair value gap very well. So this one right here, we got a sting back into it during 2 weeks, and we are still having those large wicks at the top. Yeah, that does look good to continue lower. Let's see. Um, yeah, we can't really create a daily fair value gap here. Maybe we could continue lower from this leg on the 4 hour. It's not clear right now. We don't have the best context, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on this for the rest of the week. I think it will deliver towards these two lows right here. We just have to find the proper context to catch the trade. Then after this, we have, oh wow, GBP New Zealand is also pretty interesting. Okay, so we have these lows down here. These are our targets. We got a beautiful sting last week inside this fair value gap. We have this large wick at the top. That means we definitely want to continue lower. We have this context target right here, which we didn't reach yet. This is beautiful. I do like this. And right here, we do have maybe the potential to create a daily fair value gap if we can consolidate tomorrow. This is very interesting as well. We'll keep an eye on it. Euro, Australian dollar. This one is usually never interesting. Yeah, very, very low volatility last week here. So no, that's not interesting. And then finally, GBP, Australian dollar. This is still waiting. You remember this pair? We're stuck between two monthly fair value gaps. This bearish fair value gap, this bullish fair value gap. We're waiting for price to retrace into either of them, and then we'll take action. So that's it for the crosses. We do have some JPY and some New Zealand dollar pairs that are interesting for this week. We'll keep an eye on them. Um, Now, if we look at, well, the indices here, higher prices this week, we have to be objective, even though that's not what we really want to see. I think we just have to be objective. Um, Then after that, on the majors, the dollar more specifically, dollar, I think we should see some lower prices to start the week. But as soon as we reach that golden level, I think we should see higher prices. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how things evolve. But right now, that's the game plan. If that does happen on dollar, then we do have EU and USD Canadian that both look really good. EU to continue lower and USD Canadian to continue higher. Then on the metals, I would focus on gold. Gold does look better than silver. It's just that silver, we can't really tell where price is going to retrace from, but on gold we can. It's a little bit clearer. We can say that price will start going lower from somewhere in this area. So the game plan for gold is for the beginning of the week, lower prices until we reach inside the weekly fair value gap. Once we do, um, then we should see some higher prices, at least until we reach this high that we can sweep potentially, sting into the golden level at the same time, and then we can get the real move lower. um, but overall, throughout the entire week, I think we will see a bullish weekly candle here on gold. Crude oil, higher prices overall throughout the week. Very interesting. But yeah, I think market manipulations are officially over. I I believe. Um, well, let's not have a whole conversations about geopolitics, but just know that, our SPR reserves are just getting used at record speeds, and we're just running solo in oil reserves, and that means that the Trump administration cannot manipulate the markets anymore because they don't have enough oil in their reserves. So I think market manipulations are over, and maybe we could finally start respecting price action instead of just having market manipulations. We'll see, but overall, higher prices for the week. And then Bitcoin consolidation. We just want to wait for a retracement back inside this monthly fair value gap. So this is it, lads. This is it for the weekly forecast. Sorry, I know it's a pretty long video, around 40 minutes. I apologize for that, but I think overall we have a good analysis, a good overview of all the markets. We have also a couple potential opportunities coming up, some potential interesting pairs, interesting setups. So let's keep an eye on that. I'll keep you updated throughout the week with the daily forecast. So with that said, thank you for listening, and I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.